What happened to Obi-Wan?
He died. Just like Darth Maul. Welcome back. I'm David the Good, and I am standing in my garden. This is the second gigantic, amazing garden that I built this year. In a long string of unexpected circumstances, I ended up leaving the tropics and made my way to Alabama. And it is much colder here than it was in my tropical garden. So what we've got behind us are pretty much all brassicas and some rye, the stuff that can handle the cold. Though we had a frost just this last week that went down to 25 degrees, and that did a little bit of damage, but it wasn't so much that I can't show you something cool in the garden. So today we're going to talk a little bit about single row crops and why I like them. Why I like this method that makes absolutely no sense in this wonderful modern era of raised beds. Or does it? Why would you want to space things out this far? Doesn't this look like it's made for tractors? Our pioneer ancestors planted rows a lot like this, and that was before there were tractors. We have this idea now that we've kind of evolved beyond the single row because, hey, you know, this is a big waste of space. Why would you do this unless you had to accommodate the big wheels of a tractor running through your gardens? But it predates the tractor. Like I said, the settlers did the same thing, and there's a reason for it. There's actually multiple reasons for it. One of them is rainfall. When you have your crops spaced this far apart, they need way less water than they would if they were all packed together. Think about it. When it rains, the water goes into the soil. There's a certain amount of water in that soil. If there's plants on top of it, all with their roots going in all over the place, they're going to draw that water off much faster than if there's a big blank area with a couple of plants. So the wider spacing means there's a lot more water in the soil to go around after rain. So because I didn't want to have to irrigate this on any kind of regular basis, because in order to irrigate it right now, I have to haul a sprinkler around or blast it with a hose, I went ahead and went with wide spacing. And the wide spacing means less use of water in the soil. If you've got the extra space, you can space your plants a lot wider and get usually things to grow right on rainfall depending on your climate. Another benefit of the wide spacing, this soil is poor. When there are less plants fighting for the limited nutrition in the soil, they do better. You know, you've got the same thing. You've got a certain amount of nutrition that's in this soil. If I throw some fertilizer down or something, I don't have to improve this whole area to an incredible extent. I can have soil that's not as awesome that will still grow me a good yield on crops without, you know, having to like make this perfect bed. If you look at like John Jeevan's Grow More Vegetables method, where you're putting in a good bit of compost and you're keeping the soil at a very high fertility rate, you're keeping a high organic matter content, or if you're looking at, you know, Mel Bartholomew's square foot gardening, it's 1/3 compost, 33% compost. The organic matter in this soil is 2%, and I'm growing turnips. And that's because there's a limited amount of resources, but there's a lower population drawing from those resources. So that's a second benefit of this system. And a third benefit, well, I'll just show you. Can you see how fast I'm weeding? It takes more time to weed a 4x8 bed in a little raised garden type situation than it does to weed 10 times that space when you've got the wide spacing and the right tools. This particular tool is one of the greatest time-saving weeding inventions that I have ever come across. It's called a wheel hoe. This is a simple do-it-yourself kit model from my favorite homestead inventor, Harriet Kimball. Harriet Kimball also invented the whiz-bang chicken plucker. See this? It's got an oscillating hoe blade here, hula hoe blade, a little bicycle wheel on the front, and it's got this just a center thing to hold it all together with a couple of handles on it, and the distribution of force goes down right onto that blade, and you rock one way and it cuts forwards, you rock backwards and it cuts backwards, and you can basically weed on the push and the pull just like a regular hula hoe, except this is so much more efficient. It's super fast for decapitating the weeds. Plus, after you get a rain and the soil starts to crust up, the water leaves the soil faster when it's been packed down by a rain. And I learned from Steve Solomon long ago about making a dust mulch. So you get a rain and you crack up the soil on top of it, so you run your hoe through, and that little crust on top helps preserve the moisture that's further down. But the weeding on a single row system is so easy if you've got a simple tool like this. So we're going from, basically backyard gardening, hobby gardening, kitchen gardening, towards more market gardening, and still doing it with hand tools, and very inexpensively. I love these baby turnips. They have been exceptionally delicious and sweet, and I think it's partly because of the micronutrients we gave them. What I really like about this system is the practicality of it. There's a simplicity to just cutting a couple of rows in the ground, planting them, and then turning around and, just letting the weeds be guillotined by an awesome tool. There's very little to it. You don't have to build beds. You don't have to manure the ground. You have to do very, very little to get food in the ground. And of course, we've learned this year that getting food in the ground is an important thing. This is a dead, simple, tried and tested method of gardening. Is it my favorite method of gardening? No. I like it. It's got its uses. It's in the toolkit. I would rather build the soil long term. I would rather do polycultures. I would really like to do a food forest. But when you need food right away and you need it simple, cut those ruts in the ground. You saw how I did that. Actually, let me just show you how I did that. Then we just went down the rows and we planted them. Then we went ahead and wheel hoed in between, and voila, that's it. You just kind of maintain it. I go down and I water them with a nutrient solution now and again, and we fertilize them a little bit when we first put the rows in, but that's it. This is dead simple. If you can put a couple of bags of 10-10-10 in your shed, if you can make a little row maker out of 2x4s, or just go along with a hoe and drag your rows. And if you can get a wheel hoe, that's great, but if you don't have a wheel hoe, just use a regular hoe and hoe in between the rows. Super simple. You need a lot less water, you need a lot less resources. It's an old tried and true method of gardening. And some people aren't gonna like it because it's not falling into some sort of a paradigm like we're super no-till or we're completely organic or whatever else. But right now, learn to grow food first. Grow food. This is dead simple. This is terrible soil, and I'm getting yields out of it. So keep that in mind first. I want you to be able to grow your own food first, because the jump from not growing food to growing food is the huge jump. You know, after you get to that point, then you can start going, okay, I only want to be, you know, organic. I want to be no-till. I want to do just food forests. I want to make these cool polyculture beds or whatever else. That's great. I'm doing all those things at the same time. But this is tried and true. Get it in the ground. Use just the rain that is coming from the sky or a little bit of irrigation. Real simple. So I hope that's helpful to you. If you are interested in survival gardening, check out my book, Grow or Die, The Good Guide to Survival Gardening. And I'll also put links below this video to the wheel hoe and to other resources. So thanks for joining me. Have a great time in your garden. It's getting a little cold to do much gardening now, but at least we can get out here and hoe. So I hope you're doing well where you are, and of course when spring comes, you're going to be all ready. And I'll see you then. And I'll probably do something in between, like a video every once in a while, in between sitting around inside and feeling cold. Until next time, may your thumbs always be green.
Buried my rabbit beneath the cherry tree one fine afternoon. Someday I know that we'll meet again on a fruit salad spoon.
What I really like about this system is the practicality. It's really got an ease of use that just makes it... You're not supposed to crack up! You've got to stop laughing. How am I supposed to do it if you're laughing?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.